It didn't begin with violence, it began with movement. In 1970, a 28-year-old nursing student named Donna received a Raggedy Ann doll as a birthday gift from her mother. It was not rare, not antique, not associated with the occult. Just a soft cloth doll with red yarn hair and a stitched triangular nose. Donna placed it on her bed inside the apartment she shared with her roommate Angie in Hartford, Connecticut. At first, it was decoration, nothing more. The apartment was small, modest, typical. For two young women balancing nursing school and part-time work. Long shifts, late study nights, exhaustion. The doll sat quietly against the pillow, until it didn't. Donna would leave for class in the morning, the doll upright on her bed. When she returned home in the evening, it would be on the couch, arms crossed, legs stretched differently, subtle changes. At first, she assumed Angie had moved it. Angie assumed Donna had moved it. They laughed about it. It became a joke. Your doll is being dramatic again. But the joke faded quickly, because the movements became specific, intentional. Donna left it lying flat. She returned home. It was sitting upright, propped against the wall. Another day, she left it on the couch. She returned. It was kneeling on a chair. Kneeling, facing the wall. Balanced in a way that seemed physically impossible for a limp cloth doll without support. They checked the windows. Locked. The door, locked. No sign of forced entry, no valuables missing, no drawers. Disturbed. Nothing touched, except the doll. Days passed. The tension shifted from humor to discomfort. Then came something neither of them could dismiss. The notes. Small pieces of parchment paper. Not torn notebook paper. Not scraps from a pad. Old-style parchment. Neither Donna nor Angie owned parchment paper. Each note written in pencil. Childlike handwriting. Unsteady strokes. The messages were short. Help me. Help us. They appeared in different rooms. On the hallway floor. On Donna's desk. On the kitchen counter. Always when they were not home. They searched the apartment. Closets, cabinets, under the beds. Nothing. No intruder. No explanation. The laughter was gone, replaced by something heavier. Then one night, around 3 a.m., Donna woke suddenly. No noise had triggered her, just the feeling of being watched. She turned toward the bedroom door. It was slightly open. She was certain she had closed it. As she stared at the door, it slowly moved, not wide, just a few inches. Slow, controlled. She froze, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. The hallway light outside was off, no shadow, no footsteps, just the door. And the doll, sitting upright at the foot of her bed, facing her. She did not remember placing it there. That was the moment the story stopped being amusing. Whatever was happening was not random. It was escalating, and escalation would soon turn physical. Because movement and notes can be dismissed. But what happened next could not. That is when Lou entered the story, Angie's fiancé, a frequent visitor to the apartment. From the beginning, Lou disliked the doll, not because it was unsettling, but because, in his words, it felt wrong. He warned Donna more than once. That thing isn't a little girl. At the time, there was no little girl story yet. But Lou claimed the apartment felt different when the doll was present. He began having recurring nightmares. In the dream, he would wake up unable to move. The room dark. Heavy. Pressure building in the air. He could sense something in the corner. Then he would see it. The doll. Sliding across the floor. Not walking. Not tipping. Sliding. Slowly approaching his bed. Climbing onto his chest. And wrapping its cloth hands around his throat. Each dream ended the same way. Strangulation. Darkness. Gasping awake. At first, he dismissed them as stress. Until one afternoon, the line between dream and reality blurred. Lou entered the apartment alone. Donna and Angie were out. He intended to pack for an upcoming trip. The apartment felt unusually silent. He later said the silence felt thick, as if the air itself were pressing inward. He walked toward Donna's room. He heard rustling behind the door. Soft movement. He assumed someone had broken in. He pushed the door open. The room was empty, the windows locked. No one inside. The doll was lying face down on the floor. He stepped closer. Suddenly he felt sharp, burning pain across his chest, as if claws had dragged through fabric and skin. He stumbled backward. When he looked down, his shirt was torn. 7 marks ran across his torso. 3 vertical, 4 horizontal, fresh, red, bleeding. He later claimed the wounds healed unusually fast. Within days, they faded. There were no witnesses, only his testimony. But for Donna, that was enough. Movement could be coincidence. Notes could be a prank. But claw marks were different. This was no longer harmless. It was dangerous. And that is when they contacted a medium. Disturbed but still searching for a rational explanation, Donna and Angie agreed to contact a medium. The séance was held inside the apartment. Lights dimmed, candles placed carefully around the small living room. Windows closed. The medium entered quietly. She walked through the apartment slowly, pausing near Donna's bedroom, pausing near the couch where the doll had first been found, moved. She later claimed she sensed a presence, not violent, not aggressive, but young. According to the medium, the spirit was that of a little girl. Her name, she said, was Annabelle Higgins. The medium claimed Annabelle had died years earlier on the property where the apartment building had been constructed. She described the spirit as lonely, confused, looking for comfort, looking for someone to care. Donna, being a nursing student, felt compassion immediately. The idea of a lost child seeking comfort did not frighten her. It saddened her. During the séance, the medium stated that the spirit had attached itself to the doll, not to harm, but to feel close to something familiar. The medium told Donna, "She feels safe with you." Then came the question that would later define the case. Would you allow her to stay? Donna hesitated, but compassion outweighed caution. She agreed. She gave permission. That detail would later become central to Ed Warren's interpretation. Because in demonology, according to Ed, permission matters. Spirits of the dead do not require consent. But demonic entities, he claimed, seek invitation, whether conscious or emotional. Donna believed she was helping a lost child. According to Ed Warren later, that was the doorway, because the activity did not calm down. It intensified. Objects began shifting more frequently. The doll's position changed almost daily. The notes continued. But now the atmosphere in the apartment felt different, heavier. Lou became increasingly vocal. He rejected the child spirit explanation entirely. He told Donna directly, "That thing isn't Annabelle Higgins." His nightmares continued, but they became more vivid, more physical. He claimed he could feel weight pressing against his chest even after waking. One evening, Donna entered her room and found the doll on her bed with what appeared to be red liquid on its hands. She initially thought it was ink or spilled juice, but the stains were dark, thicker. There is no laboratory confirmation of what the substance was, only Donna's account. That moment marked a psychological shift. The idea of a harmless child spirit no longer fit the pattern. Fear replaced sympathy. That is when Donna contacted an Episcopal priest, Father Hegan. Father Hegan listened carefully to the account. After visiting the apartment briefly, he concluded the situation was beyond his experience. He contacted Father Cook. Father Cook then contacted Ed Warren. By 1970, Ed and Lorraine Warren were already known in paranormal investigation circles. They were self-described demonologists, not clergy, but lay investigators who worked alongside priests. They arrived at the apartment shortly after being contacted. Lorraine later described the atmosphere as oppressive, not childlike, not innocent. Oppressive. Ed interviewed Donna, Angie, and Lou separately. He documented their statements. After evaluating the situation, Ed reached a conclusion that changed the narrative entirely. He stated the doll was not possessed. Instead, he believed it was being manipulated. According to Ed, spirits of the dead do not inhabit objects, but demonic entities can attach themselves to locations and manipulate objects to create fear. He believed the story of Annabelle Higgins was fabrication, not by Donna, but by the entity itself. A strategy to gain sympathy, to gain trust, to gain permission. Ed claimed the goal was not attachment to the doll. The goal was attachment to Donna. Oppression first, possession later. He warned them that physical harm could escalate. Lou's claw marks, in his view, were a demonstration, not an isolated event, a message. He recommended immediate removal of the doll from the apartment, before escalation reached what he described as infestation level. Father Cook performed a blessing inside the apartment. Prayers were recited, holy water sprinkled. The doll remained still during the ritual, but Ed insisted it could not remain there. Donna agreed to surrender the doll, relieved but frightened, because removing it meant acknowledging the danger was real. Ed picked up the Raggedy Ann doll carefully. He did not wrap it. He did not place it in a sealed container. He carried it openly, as if watching for reaction. Lorraine later stated she felt the presence grow stronger as the doll was moved, heavier, more resistant, as if aware. They placed it in the back seat of their car, not in the trunk. Ed later explained he wanted to keep it visible. They began the drive back to Monroe, Connecticut, and according to Ed's account, that is when interference began. The car stalled unexpectedly, once, then again. The power steering reportedly tightened without warning, making the wheel difficult to turn. At one intersection, Ed claimed the brakes failed momentarily, the vehicle rolling farther than intended. He managed to stop the car using the emergency brake. Lorraine later described the drive as tense, not chaotic, but pressured. Ed pulled the car to the side of the road. He removed holy water from his case. He sprinkled it directly onto the doll. He recited prayers. After that, he stated the mechanical issues stopped. No more stalling, no steering resistance, no brake delay. Skeptics argue mechanical failure can happen unpredictably. Believers argue timing matters. Ed interpreted it as resistance. The entity did not want to leave the apartment, but it was leaving, and containment was the next step, because bringing the doll home was not the end of the story. It was containment, and containment requires rules. When Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived home in Monroe, Connecticut, the doll was not treated as a souvenir. It was treated as a threat. The Warrens kept what became known as the occult museum inside their home. A room filled with objects collected from investigations over the years, religious artifacts, allegedly cursed items, objects connected to reported hauntings. Annabelle was not placed on a shelf. She was isolated. At first, Ed reportedly placed the doll in his office chair. Within days, according to his account, disturbances began. The doll was found, moved from where it had been left. Not dramatic movement, subtle repositioning. Ed interpreted this as confirmation. Containment would be necessary. He constructed a wooden case, simple at first. Later replaced with a reinforced glass enclosure, solid wood frame, glass front panel, a visible warning sign placed inside. Warning: positively do not open. The wording was deliberate, direct, no humor, no theatrics. Eddie stated that a Catholic priest performed regular blessings on the case, monthly according to some accounts. The doll remained seated inside, hands resting forward, expression unchanged, but the stories surrounding it grew. Visitors were occasionally allowed to view the museum, not public in the traditional sense. Appointments only, small groups. During these visits, several individuals reportedly experienced unusual reactions, sudden headaches, dizziness, feelings of nausea, unexplained anxiety. There are no medical records publicly confirming these reactions, only testimony shared by the Warrens. One story became particularly well known. A young man visiting the museum with his girlfriend reportedly mocked the doll. He tapped on the glass, laughed, challenged it. "Do something," he allegedly said. Ed immediately asked him to stop, then asked him to leave. According to Ed's account, the young man continued mocking the doll as he exited the home. Hours later, the Warrens claimed the young man was involved in a motorcycle accident. He died at the scene. His girlfriend survived. There is no official document connecting the accident to the visit, no police statement linking cause and effect. But the story spread quickly. In paranormal circles, coincidence becomes pattern, and pattern becomes legend. Over the years, Annabelle became one of the most recognized objects in the Warrens' collection. Not because of appearance. The real doll is not visually terrifying. It is a classic. Raggedy Ann, soft cloth, red yarn hair, simple stitched smile, no cracked porcelain, no sharp teeth, no dark glass eyes. The terror comes from the narrative, from the claim that something inhuman used innocence as disguise. Ed consistently maintained the doll itself was not possessed. It was a conduit, a manipulation tool. He described the entity as demonic, not ghostly, not human. He warned that removing the doll from the case without proper blessing could result in harm. The case remained sealed. Years passed. Investigations continued. The Warrens became increasingly known for high-profile cases, Amityville, Enfield, other reports of hauntings and demonic oppression. Annabelle remained inside the museum, contained, photographed occasionally, never opened publicly. Lorraine Warren, in interviews, described the presence associated with Annabelle as inhuman. She emphasized that demons seek permission, and that compassion can be exploited. The core of the case, as told by the E. Warrens, rests on three pillars: movement, physical attack, manipulated identity. Skeptics point to alternative explanations: sleep paralysis for loose experiences, self-inflicted or accidental scratches, misremembered events, psychological reinforcement. No independent forensic analysis was ever released publicly, no laboratory examination of the doll, no handwriting analysis of the notes made public. The parchment notes were never preserved for academic study, which places the case in a unique category, documented through testimony, but not verified through physical evidence available to the public. Yet the story endured, because narrative is powerful, and fear tied to innocence is even more powerful. The occult museum itself eventually closed to public visits due to zoning regulations. But the doll remained in the Warrens' possession. After Ed Warren's death in 2006, Lorraine continued maintaining the collection. After Lorraine's passing in 2019, the responsibility shifted to their son-in-law, Tony Spera. He has publicly stated that the doll remains secured, still in its case, still blessed, still monitored. Despite rumors circulating online from time to time claiming the doll escaped, Spera has denied such claims. Photographs periodically surface showing the doll in the case, unmoved, unchanged, silent. What makes Annabelle unique is not overwhelming physical evidence. It is consistency of narrative. The story told by Donna, by Lou, by Angie, and then reinforced by Ed and Lorraine Warren. Across interviews, across decades, details remained largely the same. Movement, notes, permission, claw marks, containment. But consistency does not equal proof, and absence of proof does not equal falsehood. It leaves tension, a space between belief and doubt. That space is where Annabelle lives, locked behind glass. Still, For more than 4 decades, the Annabelle case remained largely confined to paranormal circles. Then Hollywood entered the story. In 2013, The Conjuring introduced Ed and Lorraine Warren to a global audience. The film portrayed them as investigators confronting dark, demonic forces. Annabelle appeared briefly in the opening sequence, but the doll shown on screen looked nothing like the real one. The cinematic version was porcelain, cracked face, darkened eyes, sharp, exaggerated features, visually disturbing. The real Annabelle is a simple Raggedy Ann doll, soft cloth, bright yarn hair, neutral stitched smile. The change was intentional. A cloth. Doll is unsettling in story form, but on screen, subtlety can be lost. Horror cinema amplifies fear through visual exaggeration. In 2014, Annabelle received her own spin-off film. Then sequels followed. Annabelle, Creation. Annabelle Comes Home. The doll became a horror icon, recognizable worldwide. Merchandise, posters, costumes. The Conjuring universe grew into one of the highest-grossing horror franchises in history. But the films are dramatizations. They are inspired by claims, not documentaries. The core events of the 1970 apartment remain the foundation. Donna, Angie, Lou, the medium, the Warrens, the claw marks, the containment case. But the cinematic storyline expands and fictionalizes. New characters, new timelines, new supernatural sequences. The real case is quieter, more ambiguous, less visually dramatic, and far more controversial. Because outside of the Warrens' testimony, independent documentation is limited. There are no publicly released police reports confirming the claw attack, no hospital records verifying Lou's injuries, no preserved physical evidence available for modern forensic testing. The parchment notes were never archived for handwriting analysis. The red substance reportedly found on the doll's hands was never laboratory tested in public record. Skeptics argue the case fits psychological patterns. Suggestion, sleep paralysis, shared reinforcement of belief, emotional escalation within a closed environment. Others argue that the absence of evidence does not invalidate lived experience, that not all events are documented, that fear and trauma can be real without paperwork. Ed Warren consistently maintained that demons manipulate perception, that they exploit sympathy, that the story of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins was strategic deception, a way to gain permission, and permission in his framework opens the door. Whether one accepts demonology or rejects it entirely, one fact remains: the doll still exists. It has not been destroyed. It has not been discarded. It remains in containment, locked behind glass, inside a wooden case, marked with a warning. The museum itself is no longer open in its original form, but the collection remains under supervision. Tony Spera has publicly stated that the doll has never escaped, despite viral rumors circulating online in recent years claiming otherwise. Each rumor generates waves of attention. Each denial renews curiosity. Because Annabelle is no longer just a case. It is cultural mythology. It represents something deeper than a haunted object story. It represents the fear of innocence corrupted, the fear that something harmless can become a gateway, the fear that compassion can be weaponized, and perhaps most unsettling of all, the idea that permission matters. Donna believed she was helping a lost child. If the Warrens' interpretation is accurate, that moment of compassion was the turning point, not the movement, not the notes, not the scratches. Permission. That detail is what keeps the case alive in theological debates. Because if the story is purely psychological, then it becomes a study in suggestion and belief. If it is genuine oppression, then it becomes a warning. Either way, it survives, because it sits in the space between provable and possible. Annabelle does not rely on spectacle. It relies on uncertainty. A doll moved, notes appeared, a man was scratched. Investigators concluded demonic manipulation. The doll was contained. and it has remained there for decades. No confirmed fatalities linked directly by official documentation. No verified scientific analysis released publicly. Only testimony, consistency, and a glass case that has not been opened. The real Annabelle does not scream. It does not move on command. It does not turn its head. It sits, silent, still, and perhaps that is what makes it endure. Because horror that shouts fades. Horror that waits lingers. So, what is Annabelle? A misunderstood object. Amplified by belief. A case of psychological escalation in a small apartment in 1970. A strategic narrative that grew beyond control. Or something else entirely. A manipulation that succeeded once permission was granted? The answer depends on where you stand. Belief, skepticism, or somewhere in between. But here is what cannot be denied. A simple Raggedy Ann doll, given as a birthday gift in 1970, became one of the most recognized haunted objects in modern history. Not through documented forensic proof, but through narrative persistence, through interviews, through repetition, through film, through culture, and through curiosity that refuses to die. Some objects become famous, some become feared. Annabelle became both. And tonight, whether you believe or doubt, you now know the documented claims behind the legend. The movement, the permission, the scratches, the removal, the containment, the warning, and the silence. The case remains closed. The glass remains sealed. And the doll remains seated, waiting.